But first of all, I want to talk about nuclear power, nuclear energy, because there's a serious risk we might run out of electricity if we have a cold, windless snap. And I'm delighted to be joined down the line by the very experienced energy consultant, Kathryn Porter. Good evening, Kathryn. Thanks for being with us. So we hear today that nuclear power output has dropped to its lowest level since 1982. It's a major setback for the net zero plans because, of course, there's no CO2 with nuclear power. This is unbelievable. There's been a 15% decline in 1 year, and now nuclear power is only 13% of our electricity compared to about 30% in the 1990s. It's not gone very well, has it, Kathryn?
It hasn't, and it's only going to get worse, unfortunately, because of the 5 remaining nuclear power stations. 4 are due to close by March 2028. And the expectation is really that Hinkley Point C won't open until the 2030s, which means we'll only have 1 power station, nuclear power station, which is Sizewell B, on the system. And that will need to go offline for maintenance and refueling at various points, leaving no nuclear on the system.
I think we had a deputy prime minister back in about 2011 or 12 who said that nuclear power was no good because it would take too long. It wouldn't be ready until 2023. You've just confirmed it won't be ready until sort of 2030. I mean, this is serious mismanagement by the governments over 10 to 15 years, isn't it?
It is, and it was a very poor choice to go with the European pressurised water reactor technology, which is being built at Hinkley Point C. There are better options, and there were better options at the time that the government entered into that contract. And we've seen subsequently that in South Korea, KEPCO has managed to build 6 new modern reactor designs. They've actually got another 2 that are opening imminently. Some of those are in South Korea and some are in UAE. And they're building those in 8 years. On time and on budget, whereas the EPR is very many years delayed and it's gone way, way over budget.
Oh, that's a surprise. Building infrastructure in the United Kingdom and it's gone over budget. I think we might have heard that before, Kathryn. So is it really true that our nuclear capacity now is the lowest we've had since the mid-70s?
Yes, exactly, because the existing fleet has been ageing. And as I said, there are only 5 reactors left, and 4 of them are advanced gas-cooled reactors, which are all due to close by March 2028. And then that would just leave Sizewell B, which is a pressurised water reactor. That was built more recently. That opened in 1995, and it isn't scheduled to close until 2035, although EDF is planning to extend the life of that plant. Now, it is looking at also extending the lives of the AGRs. There's going to be an update, I think, next week saying whether they're going to achieve that. But they are battling a little bit with the Office for Nuclear Regulation, which has got what is, on any measure, an overly conservative approach to looking at these older reactors. And I think that needs to be really addressed if we're going to maintain energy security.
But maybe, Kathryn, we shouldn't worry because the wind always blows, the sun always shines, and with offshore and onshore wind turbines and ever more solar farms, it'll all be fine, won't it? What are we worried about?
Oh, well, yeah, solar's all very well, except in our periods of maximum electricity demand, which is in the evening in the winter. Obviously, it's dark, so there is 0 solar contribution. And you go through high-pressure weather systems when wind output is really low. And I think there's been a view that we can get around that with importing. But the trouble is most of the countries that we're connected with, really with the exception of Norway, we all share very similar weather. And then with the exception of Norway and France, we all have pretty similar electricity mixes and are all following a wind-led transition strategy. So we can all have low wind at the same time, and then you won't be able to import it because nobody will want to.
So is that the moment of risk that actually we basically run out of electricity and then the National Grid has to pay individuals and businesses to turn stuff off? Rationing of electricity. How close are we to that?
Well, that's already happening because last year the National Grid introduced the demand flexibility service where customers could get paid to reduce their demand. But actually it gets even worse when you have a real shortage because then you'll get particularly industrial demand being curtailed without being compensated potentially. And even if they're being compensated, it's still very economically damaging to do that if it's not being done on a voluntary basis because it effectively requires a reduction of economic output.
Doesn't seem a very smart policy to me. I'm a big fan of nuclear.